Hello everyone, my dear students. We continue advanced Python course where we discuss object-oriented programming, and first two lessons we covered essentials, terminology. We did some methods development, how to write methods properly, what is a self keyword in methods definition, and how methods related to instance variables. So the idea is very simple. Whenever you call a method, the address of the object is passed to it, and that's why all the objects share the same method. However, they work differently. The same method may work differently because different addresses are passed and different objects are processed. So this is basically essentials. So sometimes we call those methods and those variables that a class consists of instance variables or instance methods. However, there are kind of special variables and kind of special methods. They don't really follow this rule. They kind of exceptions from object-oriented rules, and we call them static. Static members of the class is today topic. So what's the difference? How they work? And it's much easier to just learn using examples. So please try to type, not only try to watch the lessons, try to type the lessons, all the code you see on the screen, because we develop in the same class. It's called Rectangle, and it's slowly getting more and more complicated. So it's very nice if you could follow me, not just as a passive student, but as an active one. So so far we have a class, a rectangle, we have a constructor or initializer, sometimes we call it, and we have three methods: grow, shrink, and draw. What's the problem right now? The problem is when you instantiate rectangles, when you grow them or shrink them, you don't really control the dimensions. For example, you may create very weird rectangle with the dimensions minus 100 by minus 200. Or when you grow, you may exceed the sizes of the physical console. The same is about shrinking. If you shrink too much, the drawing doesn't make sense, because when we create a drawing method, we assume in our loops at least our rectangle is 3 by 3, at least. So it's nice to add some kind of validation to our class to make it more robust, more reliable. And what I did in lines 2, 3, 4, 5, I created four variables, integer variables. I initialized them, and that's the limits. From now on, I'm trying to make the process of rectangles initiation and rectangles manipulation more organized. So I'm saying minimum width and height is 3. So there is no, or there are no rectangles less than 3 by 3. Talking about width, I allow the width to be up to 60, line 4. And I allow height to be up to 20. Why it's so different? Because if you look at the console, or sometimes we call it DOS window on your computer, it's always much wider than higher. So it has more characters um, um, in the width than the characters in the height. So that's 4 variables. And look at the capitalization. They are capitalized, which means they are constants. They done forever. So they defined, they initialized, and then nobody's supposed to touch them. We call such variables constants, variables that do not change. So, of course, I could use in my class just the numbers, just the literals, but then my code is hard to read and hard to modify. So it's much easier to operate with meaningful names like min W, min H, max W, and max H. Then what happens in the constructor? I'm checking, look, I'm checking, and if all of a sudden the parameter is out of the range, less than 3, or if it's greater than greater than 60, I normalize. So if my parameter is not good, I fix it. I change it to correct values. But if it's good, nothing to do. I just save W in the instance variable width. So it's a validation, basically. What you see here, it's, let me make it clearer. So this is width validation. So I do the same for the height, of course. I validate the height. And now, when I create or instantiate rectangles, it's more reliable. I cannot create weird, bad, hard to draw rectangles. Also, my grow and shrink chicken. You see now grow and shrink also more reliable. They chicken before they increment or decrement. And if it's already at the end of the range, if the height or the width at the end of the range, then I do nothing. I ignore any actions. I cannot grow endlessly. I grow up to certain point. The same for a shrink. I shrink to the certain limit. But draw is pretty much the same, no difference, because draw assumes everything is good. Draw doesn't really have parameters except self, of course. And the code is still the same. So I can show you one more time slowly by scrolling the improved, more reliable class with the static variables, static members. I have 4. So that's the constructor. This is grow and shrink. And finally, draw. Remember, we did drawing in 3 steps. The drawing part is still the same. So, technically speaking, you may create lots of rectangles. All of them are different. However, they share static members. So all the objects of the class, they share those 4 static members. They belong to any rectangle. Somehow static members, they impose kind of similarity to all the instances, all the objects. Let's take a look now at the test. So let me look at the second file, rectangle test. You see I connect, of course, I connect my class, and then out of the blue, when I instantiate, look, I passed very strange numbers to my rectangle. Character is always good, you don't have to check it, but those 2 numbers supposed to be validated, and because they below the minimum, they must be now 3 and 3. Let's prove it. Let's run the module, and exactly you see, despite of the fact I passed very wrong values to constructor, it didn't fail, it didn't crash, it still created nice and small valid rectangles. So that's the idea of static members or shared members. You can call them both ways, but please pay attention, because static members exist forever. They don't have to be instantiated. So if you using instance variables, normal variables, you use, of course, object name like r width. So that's how you refer to the object members or instance variables. But static members are different. They don't need objects. And when you use them, when you refer to them, you need just the name of the class. So you see how I'm using static variables. I'm just providing the name of the class, qualifier, and the name of my static variable. So also we are going to discuss tomorrow static methods. They also kind of special methods, kind of exceptional methods. And we are going to continue our discussion tomorrow about static members of the class. I think this topic is important, because in real life, as you're going to see very soon, at the end of the Python advanced discussion, we are going to try to build real life apps. You will see that static members are important and they used quite often. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your subscriptions, your comments, your likes as usual, and have a nice day. Bye bye.